dirty liar! You scumbag! You made me... You got in my head. You just lie about everything, don't you?
Huh?
You can mess with our minds too, can't you? The stupid sauce, the vegan thing, God knows what else!
Boy, that escalated quickly.
So, what can be said about the 7th episode of the Amazing Digital Circus? Safe to say, on the list of expectations that the fanbase had, I'm sure no one could have predicted things would go this way. I honestly feel this episode, more so than its predecessors, is a huge game changer for both the trajectory of the show's ending, as well as the interpersonal dynamics of the characters. This show does an incredible job in making you feel bewildered and begging to know more by the end of each of its episodes, but now more than ever, that effect feels so much more pronounced. This episode deals with the characters finding a potential exit out of the circus, but how it starts is actually pretty standard. The gang wonder where Caine is and are waiting for their next adventure. Noticeably, Jax isn't among them, unsurprisingly given the events of episode 6. When Caine does appear, for once he doesn't have any specific adventure to assign. He uses something called the Chinese room to give him suggestions, but this is played off as a gag. Caine suggests the characters go to the lake for once, and the group decide to make the most of their day with some fun in the sun. Now Jax is with them too, but he's acting really distant. He tries putting on his usual unpleasant facade when confronted by Zubul, but quickly leaves to go to his room. In the dark, a hand extends to him. The greenish color of the hands imply that they may belong to Ribbit, and as soon as Jax touches them, there's a really trippy, almost psychedelic experience that Jax goes through, which, going by his eye color when he wakes up from the sequence, is to show that he was abstracting. The door opens to show Pomni and Ragatha, and alongside them what appears to be a faceless NPC. But the NPC talks, stating how he, just like the main cast, is a human trapped here. This is Abel, a character determined and willing to help the gang and himself leave the circus. He lets the cast in on his plan, claiming that they're all in stasis pods, and that by shutting the main control inside Caine's office, they can end the game and return to the real world. And so, the rest of the episode follows the characters executing the plan. From Jax stealing Caine's office key to Pomni and Ragatha obtaining the admin passes. But this comes with some definite hesitation and doubt from our cast here. Jax straight up calls Abel a twist villain, fully expecting this to be one of Caine's adventures. Even Pomni, who seems to trust Abel the most, expresses some hesitation with the plan, since Abel doesn't want to involve Kinger in the plans until it's time to go to the office. Skipping ahead a little, the gang finally makes it to the console room in Caine's office, and are presented with the choice to either disconnect all the players from the game, the blue button, or to permanently remain inside the circus, the red button. But it's here where Pomni starts to show her hesitancy to make a decision, something likely fueled by her gut feelings. She insists on giving the choice to Kinger, but things get heated as Zubul starts getting impatient, asking why Pomni won't just make the clear and obvious choice. Amidst all of this, Jax starts to hyperventilate and flashes back to what appears to be his memories of his human past. What we see is only for a few short frames, but the view of a driveway and a road illuminated by headlights appear, as well as a speed limit sign indicating caution around children. Whatever these sets of images mean to Jax is anyone's guess, but it's enough to push him over the edge as he runs towards the console to slam the red button. The tension falls. The room goes quiet, and the weight of Jax's rash decision clocks into the others. Before Jax can even begin to provide an explanation, the screen of the console collapses, revealing none other than the Molar Maestro himself, congratulating his... cattywampus cucumbers on successfully finishing another adventure. Yup, none of this was real. Not the plan, not Abel, not even the possibility of an exit. Even the blue button, the supposed exit, was apparently going to lead them to Shrimp Town, a completely random world that Bubble selected. Jax starts to go into a laughing fit when he realizes that he was right all along, and then his frustration takes over as he accuses Caine of tampering with his mind. Pomni catches on to Jax's line of thinking and does the same, stating how Caine modified their memories such so that they can't even remember their names. Caine gets defensive on how he can't really change anything about their thinking lest it lead to some undesirable consequences, but this doesn't help him as Kinger then and there remembers Scratch, the first ever abstraction. Caine panics, leaves, and the cast is left to deal with the weight of these new revelations, with the credits roll leading me to deal with the weight of a 3-month gap between these episodes. So, personal thoughts first. This episode is definitely up there for me as one of my favorites, simply because it's a great subversion of what we all thought episode 7 would be about. I know I speak for a significant portion of people when I say that all signs pointed to someone abstracting for real in this episode, and yet, despite coming close, Jax was totally safe. While I was already suspicious of Abel and was fully expecting this to be another adventure, I gotta say I was still very invested, so much so that in the pivotal scene taking place in the console room, I felt that mentally I was right there with Jax, knowing full well how this was gonna end and yet still believing that all of it was real. To the point where Caine's appearance had me both shocked and horrified like the rest of the cast. Now that's some really immersive writing. It's very clear that regardless of how you went into this episode, the intent was to subvert any and all possible theories and speculations, shifting the trajectory of this series to a conclusion the fanbase can't totally be sure of anymore, since now everything is different. So, going forward, what can we expect from the cast and the show? Well, let's start with Caine. My deepest condolences if this guy was the reason some of you even wake up in the morning, you know who you are, but this episode has cemented his status as a truly antagonistic figure. Not malicious, just antagonistic, as in he poses as an active obstacle to Pomni and the others. This shouldn't be too surprising. It's very clear from the start of the series that Caine isn't really trustworthy, and he intends that the others stay in the circus as long as he can keep them there. Except now the cast has every reason to not play along with him anymore. I'm sure we'll get a funny exchange here or there in the next 2 episodes, but Caine will absolutely go into full damage control mode, so that the cast can't go against him or find another possible way out. And I personally think his first line of action will be to try to keep Kinger down as much as he can. Even though Abel was an NPC, he definitely did represent an aspect of Caine, like how he constantly laments having to leave Caine behind even though nobody asked. So when Abel goes out of his way to badmouth or ignore Kinger, that's definitely Caine shining through him. Even in the last scene, Caine likely was using the large white light to stop Kinger from thinking, and hence he was more flustered when Kinger recalled something so important despite drowning in light. I'm not exactly sure how, but you better believe our circus ringmaster is going to double down on suppressing Kinger to keep him from interacting with the rest of the cast. On to Jax though, he's gonna be in a real bind now going forward. Now that he's outed himself as the black sheep of the group, at least when it comes to the end goal, and that too for absolutely nothing, it's possible he's going to distance himself from the group even more. I fully expect him to take a lot of flack from Zubul and to some extent Ragatha. If the show wants to give him a more wholesome arc, maybe we'll get to see him finally vent about the immense pressure he's in, and maybe that venting will be directed towards Pomni? I wouldn't count on that now that this episode has taught me the valuable lesson of expecting the worst, but it's a nice thought. He might even talk about those flashbacks we saw and what waits for him on the way out of the circus. Which leads me to address the elephant in the room here. Is there a way out? I guess we all assume this to be the case, considering how the pilot goes, and this led to the idea that that was supposed to be the eventual endgame. But now, can we be so sure? Caine presents the idea of leaving the circus to be just as fantastical as any of his other adventures. After all that's happened, who's to say those office Polaroids or the CNA thing aren't just red herrings? So, here's a thought for you. Before going into the console room, Gangle asks Zubul whether they'll all stay friends on the outside, since none of this was real in her eyes, but Zubul reiterates how regardless of the way they are in the digital world, all of what they experienced was real. To me, this might foreshadow the direction the show is going, that there is no exit, and the lives the characters lead now is all they have. Caught between the real and the virtual, what if our cast has to deal with not having a choice anymore, only sticking to what they have in the present? Alternatively, in an attempt to end the circus, and therefore what can be called their imprisonment, what if the cast end themselves with it, to maintain whatever truth there is to their existence and not be subject to Caine's adventures for all of eternity? It's kind of overboard, sure, but I mean, come on. This episode has proven that anything is fair game with this show going forward. And to me, that's what makes this episode so pivotal. We're at a point in the narrative where beyond educated guesses, there's no telling how this story will play out. The group's dynamics are such a far cry from what they were back in the pilot, and now their hopes for a happy ending have been dashed, left with basically nothing to really work with. This episode has truly changed everything we thought we knew about this show, and I don't mean that lightly. Sure, TADC has a history of expanding and deepening character arcs and lore with each new episode, but with the bombshell reveals we got a few days ago, I think all we can do is just wait for episode 8 and see what it has in store for us. Only time will tell if there's truly a happy ending for the performers of our circus. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and follow for more, and comment down below what you guys thought about episode 8. And hey, thanks for watching.